2015. I'm sure colleagues will understand that the inauguration of a Vice-Chancellor is significant in the journey, as it provides the Vice-Chancellor an opportunity to articulate his or her vision. I will just extract from the inauguration address that took place in May 2015. So this is how I positioned the university on that day. To members of council, staff, and students of the University of Mpumalanga, we are all a band of pioneers with free hands to start something new and exciting. We are at the dawn of something yet to be delivered, against the backdrop of great expectations and the realities of our time. Those who have charged us with the responsibility to be the pioneering staff of this university have entrusted so much in our hands and have shown confidence. We are embracing this trust as a privilege bestowed upon us, yet fully mindful of the responsibility it places on all our shoulders. Pioneers have to build a firm foundation, mindful that what they are creating should be durable, marketable, sustainable, and enduring. Generations yet unborn must find a thriving university, one they will be proud to join, because we who pioneered it laid a firm foundation and got into this immense project with body, mind, and soul. So this is how we positioned the university. Now we come to the vision. So establishing a university in a province that didn't have a university. So it meant that there are lots of expectations, not just by the people of the province of Mpumalanga, but the whole country as a whole. So after a couple of months, trying to envision what we want the university to be known of, we then said, we want to position the University of Mpumalanga to be an African university, leading in creative opportunities for sustainable development through innovation. And when we're talking about an African university, we are not talking about a university that is located in Africa, because there are many of such universities. But we are looking at a university that will embrace the African identity. So it's not just in terms of location, but in terms of what you are going to be doing as a university. We then went on to come up with a vision that will be aligned to this vision, to offer high-quality educational and training opportunities that foster the holistic development of students through teaching and learning, research and scholarship, and engagement in collaboration with strategic partners. We are focusing, you will see that we are focusing on the holistic development of students, so that we don't develop them academically, we develop them socially, personally, physically, etc. So we are focusing on the holistic development of students. But at the same time, we are mentioning that we are going to do that in collaboration with strategic partners. We know that we are new in the sector. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to learn and work with our strategic partners, and we see today as one opportunity for us to network and develop those strategic partners that are important for us to achieve our vision. Then our values, because we are positioning ourselves as an African university, we then said that the African ethos of Ubuntu should then provide the overarching framework for our values. We didn't want to add Ubuntu as a value. We said that this is the framework under which you are going to live our values. And of course, as a new university, we have to establish a brand for ourselves. We want to be known for excellence right from the beginning. And that's why we put the value of excellence as number one. We then went on to add integrity. We know that we're living in times of corruption, and therefore it was important for us to put integrity as a value. Diversity, very important, and we say to staff that we will recognize, reward diversity, and that tribalism, xenophobia, all those do not have a place in our institution. We should see diversity not in a negative way, but something that will enrich our experiences at the university. Collaboration, I've already mentioned that in the mission, that we value collaboration. We know that if we work together with partners who are going to be able to achieve our vision, which we believe is actually ambitious for a new institution. Adaptability. We believe that we should be training students who are adaptable, who can flourish everywhere. So if we train students in South Africa and they work in Ghana, they should be able to adapt to those conditions there. They should be able to work overseas. They should be able to work in rural and urban areas. They should be able to transfer their skills. We know that nowadays there is lots of development in the workforce, that if you train students, they should be able to transfer and adapt to the new situation. Relevance for us is very important because we are a university that is created in the new democracy. So we cannot afford to offer programs, to do research that is not relevant to our context. And our context is the African context. So when we say our context, we are not just saying the context of our province or the context of our country, but we are looking at the African continent as our context. Inspiration, we want to be an inspiration to other people. We want people to say, how did you manage to do it? In 2 years, you are already, you have already achieved A, B, C, D. So this is what we want to experience as one of our goals. So in all that we are doing, we are guided by the values that I've just presented. We then look at the educational philosophy. As a university, as an African university, we also had to come up with a philosophy that will assist us to advance our vision. We present the university as a comprehensive university that understands its academic project must combine both the creation and transfer of knowledge and skills. So we're not just focusing on knowledge as a university, but we're also focusing on skills and the development of students as independent and critical thinkers with a passion for knowledge and its application. Our teaching philosophy will be theoretically informed, pedagogically appropriate, and sensitive to diversity in all its forms in the educational environment. Our teaching will emphasize the interconnectedness of teaching and learning, research and scholarship, and engagement. So instead of saying community engagement, we talk about engagement, because people tend to associate community engagement just with involvement within your immediate community. So for us, engagement would mean engagement throughout the whole continent of Africa. And we are saying that the development of our qualifications and curricula will be context sensitive. Our curricula and extracurricular activities will expose students to different ways of knowing and to the value of indigenous knowledge systems. So we also bring that indigenous knowledge system because we are saying we are an African university. We would like our staff to be reflective and reflexive practitioners who use information communication technologies to improve learning, which should occur in a diverse range of settings, the informal and informal settings. And our development programs for academic staff and support staff will support a broadening of access with increased levels of success. So the issue of access is actually very important in our context. And we don't just want to provide access, but want to provide access for success so that one moves away from the experience that we had in the past where, you know, universities were revolving doors, where students would register and fail and then be excluded. So we're focusing on access for success. And then in our positioning of the university as an African university, we say that we should be a university that recognizes, that affirms, and trenches the African experience and context in the academic project, support services, leadership, and management processes. We would like to embrace, celebrate, and uphold African values. We have already given an example of Ubuntu as one of those values. We want to focus on African epistemologies, African worldviews and philosophies, and we would like to offer a number of discourses in the African experience. We believe that we should move away from the approach where students come with knowledge from their own context, but that knowledge is not valued within the university setting. At the same time, we are saying that we are going to introduce students to other worldviews. So it's not a case of saying if you're an African university, we are only going to expose students to African epistemologies. We are saying that we will recognize that, we will affirm, but at the same time, as we know in most professions, we have to expose students to other ways of knowing and ways of thinking. We have then identified the following niche areas which are also consistent with our way of doing things: agriculture, hospitality and tourism, information communication technology, education, and conservation, not conversation, conservation, so that is our other niche area. For students to be resourceful, to be responsive, and to be responsible citizens. So this is also in line with the aspirations of our democracy, that students should be resourceful on their own, they should be responsive to their context, and they should be responsible citizens of the country. Very important as a university is that the students should have sound discipline knowledge. You can't be resourceful in your profession if you don't have sound discipline knowledge. So that is important to us. We want them to be innovative and entrepreneurial so that we can develop individuals who are independent, who are creative, and who are critical thinkers. We believe those attributes are very important to support, to advance innovation and the entrepreneurial spirit. We believe that students should be confident and effective communicators. If they are going to engage with communities, engage with other professions, it is important that they are able to communicate across different audiences. So they should be able to communicate effectively with people in the community, but at the same time, when they need to communicate with other professionals, they should be able to do so effectively. It is important to us, as I indicated under the values, the integrity. So it is important that our students become ethical and socially aware change agents. So our focus is not just on the students being change agents, but they must be change agents that are socially aware. They must be aware of their context, they must be aware of what is happening within the country, within the province, and within the continent of Africa. We believe that they should be adaptable. Also linking this to our value of adaptability, that this is one of the very important graduate attributes, because we are living in a very dynamic and changing world. So in conclusion, we believe that in a region that is thirsty for learning, as I have indicated that the University of Mpumalanga, the province didn't have a university, so this is the first university in the region. We believe that UMP, that is the abbreviation for the university, it assumes a leadership role in providing the province and the country with academic avenues for advancement. The university owes its presence and promises as a potential of the region to confirm its rightful place in the knowledge economy of our country and the continent. With unique programs designed to match the features and character of the Mpumalanga province, UMP's goal is to attract students and academics from the country and continent, offering specialized niche areas of study that will provide an academic environment of the highest standard, ensuring both students and staff and cementing UMP's place among the country's institutions of higher learning. Thank you. Involvement.
Thank you very much. Yes, friends, we about an African university. As I said at the beginning, when we were told about this, we were wondering what it meant. But I hope we've been able to pick this, especially in a South African setting. In the spirit, Nelson Mandela lives on in that country, and I think we try and thank you very much. Our next presenter is our own Sadwal of Kenya. Forgive me, I always confuse it with MOMBASA, but the names haven't caught up in my head yet. For the majority of Kenyans, this is not somebody new to you, but for our colleagues from far away, the Vice Chancellor was nurtured the institution as it was being transformed, and today is the Vice Chancellor of that great institution. And on our theme, we are talking about sustainability. How do we create sustainable development? And he's going to talk about technological education and training for economic transformation, TVET and the global goals. So we know that one of our key roles is to support society in its transformation process. We have a major role to play as TVETs, and here is somebody who is in between there. You know, we are wondering what is going to happen. We've got fears that as these institutions go away and become universities, they may run away from us. Kenya has done its job very well in terms of organizing its TVETs. First of all, I must tell you, these institutions at the lower level in the provinces, they are saying, can you hold their hands also? They are afraid, you know. Can you hold their hands so that they can also join the mainstream? So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know whether we are ready. Are we?
Guys, that I was not able to be here, that all of us would be invited to come together so that this session should begin. But Francis Abuo, I come from this country where currently I serve also as the University of Kenya. My presentation is going to take, first of all, how much time do I have? 25 minutes. My presentation is going to take, in the first part, I would like to say something about Sustainable Development Goals, and then I'll try to connect this in the second part, the extent to which this is relevant to us in the African continent, and then TVET, and then after that, I will say something about the Technical University of Kenya. This picture you have at the back of your booklet. This is the logo, if you like, of the Sustainable Development Goals agreed upon in 2015 September, and which constitutes the theme of our conference this year. It covers 17 items that the world agreed upon that we should look at between 2015 and 2030. So this is an extension of what we used to call Millennium Development Goals, whose term expired in 2015. So we are now moving on. In the next 15 years, the world hopes that we should be able to achieve all of this. If you read commentaries about SDGs, you will see that many people think that what has been set out here is quite ambitious, and it is unlikely that by 2030 we shall be able to achieve this. But for me in particular, and many of us from other parts of Africa, 2030 is very important to us. In my country, we have what is called Vision 2030. And that was long before the world came up with strategic development goals. We should be able to have achieved our own Vision 2030. And I have checked, there are a number of African countries that also have visions, Vision 2030, Vision 2040, up to Vision 2050. So this should be relevant to us. And from here, of course, as Africans, we have derived also Vision 2063 that was being talked about yesterday. A compressed version, actually, of the strategic development goals will probably look something like this. We want to end poverty, we want to protect the planet, We want to ensure prosperity for all of us. We want to fight injustice and inequality, and then we want to work together to ensure that these goals are implemented. And if you summarize this, in ending poverty, you have two main items to look at. There should be no poverty by 2030. There should be zero hunger by 2030. And in the protection of the planet, we should be consuming responsibly. We should take action about climate change. We should be concerned about life under the water, fishes, and everything that lives in there. And we should be concerned about life on land, living also. And then the third one, to ensure prosperity for all, this is where you have a lot of things, which is good health and well-being for all of us, quality education, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. I'm just putting this out so that, because we are TVET people, so that we can try to identify with these issues that have been, and then fighting of injustice and inequality, gender equality, reduced inequalities, peace and justice, and strong institutions. This is especially number 16. This is a problem for us in a very big way in the African continent. Then finally, the partnerships for implementing this, all of us working together to ensure that we are able to implement this. Now, if you look at this, unfortunately this may not be very well read for those of you who are far. But the top, this is, somebody has tried to reorganize this in a pyramid. And at the top of the pyramid, the part which looks a little darker reads prosperity and equality. And this is called the poverty apex. What this is telling us is that all of these things that we have talked about, if we can deal with the issue of poverty across things that have been listed there, all the 17 items that have been listed there, if we can deal with poverty, and typically the areas that are relatively poorer have more problems that need to be sorted out with respect to the strategic development goals. And this is what this is saying. Now, where is Africa in all this? Africa is at the core of strategic development goals. Because if you look at those goals, we are performing worst in virtually all of them, all the 17 goals. And it has been said that it will not be possible to realize the strategic development goals in the world if we are not able to realize them in Africa, because our situation is much more difficult than other people. So if the African situation could be sorted out, then by default, the rest of the world's situation would have been sorted out. And the bottom line in our continent remains poverty. Poverty. Now, and therefore, from my perspective, and many people who have looked at the strategic development goals, this poverty is the thread that connects all those 17 things. And therefore, the number one strategic goal, which is to eradicate poverty in all its forms, becomes central to everything we're looking at here. How do we define poverty? Is a state of scarcity, absolute poverty, when you lack the very basic things like food, water, shelter, and clothing. And the World Bank has defined for a number of years now that those who are considered to be absolutely poor are people who live at below 1.25 over dollar a day. 1.25 over dollar a day. And I want to show you how this looks like in the rest of the world. And you can see, this is 1.90 2011 PPP means Purchasing Power Parity Index. So this one has been converted by economists to take into consideration the what is called the purchasing power of, from country to country. So the purchasing power dollar is not necessarily the same as the $1.25 because $1.25 is the American dollar. But when you convert this to 1.90, for those of us who are not economists, this is like the international dollar. So it's 1.90, but in theory, it should be equivalent to 1.25. Now see, the number of people, who are below 1.90, 7%. Europe and Central Asia, 2.1%. This is contribution towards world poverty, fragile and conflict situations, you know who these ones are, about 40%. Latin America, 5.6, contributes 5.6%. Southeast Asia contributes 13.8%. And Sub-Saharan Africa is contributing 42.7%. This is of the people who are poor in the world. People who are poor in the world total is 12.7%. And Africa is responsible for 42.7% of them. In fact, it's more than 50% of all of us. This 42%, the international money community defines whether you're low income or middle income or upper middle income. I think many African countries are in the low income and lower middle income. And I think my country is now in the middle income, but it is lower middle income. This is because the gap, the parameter is 1.046 to 4.125. You might have heard that we were now classified at a high level. That was just gymnastics being played by international economists. There was, and that you will realize that there was a big difference in the way we live. Somebody just decided to change the scale. Now this is how the map looks like. You can see the very dark parts, red, dark, yellow. This is how poverty levels look worldwide, and where we sit as Africa. And you can see the people who are doing a little better in Southern Africa. You see Algeria there, you see Ethiopia. Curious in my country, Kenya looks good, although we don't feel it all the time. And the other people are in red and yellow, but that is what the world is telling us, how everything is looking in terms of poverty. And you will notice that poverty is actually very highly correlated to technological development of a country. It is almost directly proportional to your technological uptake. And if you look at this figure, this table here, again, I hope you can read it, it tells you something about the technology index of the 20 top countries in the world. You see Sweden is at the top, 0.867, Finland, 0.831, Switzerland, 0.799. That's in the world. And this is the technology index, the level of technological uptake and technological sophistication generally. And then these are the top 20 countries in the world, and the bottom 20, you see, and the ones in red are countries in Africa. So you see the majority of us are in there. If you look at the very bottom, 0.028, these are percentages. So it means 28, there is a 2.8% for Somalia, Mauritania, 0.11. You can identify with your country from this picture. And the top 20 in Africa is again as expected. You see where South Africa is, 0.372, is at 7.2%. Zimbabwe, Algeria, Egypt, Botswana. And you will agree, even in the way you feel it, you will say that, yeah, these are some of the countries in Africa that are doing very well. Since Kenyans, you're the majority here, you're number 116, 20.4%. And so that is really not exciting, a bit surprising. Nigeria, 14.1%. Now, and again, the level of technological development itself is very highly correlated to the number of engineers and technology per capita in a country. And that is why TVET comes in a very big way. And I'm going to show you a next picture, which gives you an idea about this. Just look at this picture. China, 7,692 engineers per 1 million population. That is, these are people with university degrees whether they're engineers or technologists. 7,692 per 1 million people. Even UK is only 3,215. Malaysia, 1,842. Then suddenly, we have left many people in the middle, and then you come to a few countries in Africa. South Africa, 316. Tanzania, 169. Kenya, 159 people. It is said that for you to make serious economic, technological strides, you need at least technologies for 1 million people. And so if you look at this picture, the only country that comes around that in the African continent is South Africa. And many of you will agree that if you look at the technological progress or the technological sophistication of South Africa, it is much better than many of ours. By the time you're getting to Switzerland, you only have 82 engineers and technologists per 1 million people. Now, I want you to look at another picture just to see the various economic sectors, how they contribute to economic progress, and the extent to which this is again linked to what may be called the progress of a country. I have by somebody else, there is a reference put down there, only too small, you can't read it. But this is a publication of 2012, the figures of 2005. In Africa, which contributed 26% to our economy, industry contributed 30%, and 45% was contributed by services. Services is everything else other than industry or agriculture. And then you see developing countries. These are developing countries, countries that are considered to be developing. Now this is very interesting. This tells you, we are always sitting under the comfort that we are a developing continent. But you can see what is being shown here. There is Africa, and then there are other countries which are developing, which means that we are not in the developing category yet. So that's a challenge for us. So developing countries, agriculture, 16%, industry 34%, and services contribute 51%. By the time you reach advanced countries, you see what agriculture is doing. Agriculture is contributing 2%, industry is 28%, services 70%. Please don't take these figures at face value, just listen. The advanced countries may be having 2% of their economy being contributed to by agriculture, but they are producing more food than ourselves. It's just that the economy is this big. So 2% of it is already bigger than 26% of Africa by far. That's the meaning, because we are looking at a very huge economy. So what it is telling us is that typically, as countries move towards sophistication and they progress, they get to a level where they're more involved with producing goods that get exported to other people to bring in money. And I wanted to bring this point out like this. We are always saying that we are an agricultural, like my country, people like to say the mainstay of our economy is agriculture. The mainstay of our economy is agriculture. Therefore, we should put in a lot of weight. Now, let us take this simple arithmetic. Let us take a country in Europe whose economy is 100 in terms of size. And let us take an economy in Africa which is 10 in size. The economy in Europe is supported by, let us say, 1% agriculture. That is 1 out of 100. And Africa, the 1% of that economy will have to be about 10%. Because by the time we're also doing 1, it is 10% of 10. So that is where it comes in. So it is, we should not take comfort in the fact that we are doing very well in terms of agriculture. We are actually importing a lot of food, as much as agriculture is contributing in a big way. And I want you to look at the outside column on the right. You see, as you get sophisticated, services is contributing more and more to your economy. Agriculture is contributing less and less. And what is services? Services is largely education. Things that is knowledge. This column of services is knowledge. Consulting, for example, that is where services is coming in. Industry is what you manufacture probably. So we need to pay attention to that. And in my view, there is a strong negative correlation between technological advancement and poverty. So if you're technologically down,